if I were sitting in a prison and Donald Trump were the person who could get me out, I would say that I saw the JFK assassination.
They have promised transparency, and then they have refused to release this. Pam Bondi says the files are on my desk. We're going to get them out any day now. They trot out MAGA influencers to the White House. They have them waving binders like idiots on the internet.
I know what's in those documents. I know something you don't know. I know what's in those documents. That's why it's so important to get these judicial documents out.
And sometimes the powerful protect the powerful, not because they like each other or because they care about each other, but because it's a mutual assured destruction.
I've been trying to get all these depositions unsealed, and these judges won't do it. So let's put the blame where the blame belongs.
So they've decided with great intentionality here that they'd rather keep something hidden, keep a conspiracy out there than just show people whatever the truth is. Again, I don't know what Donald Trump is guilty of or not guilty of, but I do know that they're hiding this, and they've decided that this is politically better for them.
I don't think they do anything to in any way imply or suggest that Trump did anything wrong.
I certainly never witnessed the president in any of, I don't recall ever seeing him in his house, for instance. I actually never saw the president in any type of massage setting. I never witnessed the president in any inappropriate setting in any way. The president was never inappropriate with anybody. In the times that I was with him, he was a gentleman in all respects.
Is that we must reveal everything. Everything has to come out. Nothing can be kept secret because, and then I went through a variety of names, including Donald Trump. And Jeffrey Epstein said no, Trump didn't do anything wrong.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so we got another Piers Morgan Uncensored coming down the pipeline. And yes, we're going in on Epstein on this one. And you know what I find so fascinating about this is that Democrats still can't come up with a good argument. They're just like, they know Donald Trump is involved with Jeffrey Epstein in that pedo island or whatever, and they are sure of it, and they are going to get to the bottom of it for some reason. But, you know, their arguments just don't make any sense, right? I've put a skeptical eye over this entire situation, and personally, I'm on high alert for any evidence that comes out that would point to Donald Trump being involved with this, but so far, all of it's conflicting evidence, and we have no idea if he was involved or not, and I don't think we're ever going to get to the bottom of if Donald Trump was actually involved with this or not. I'm leaning toward he probably wasn't, because Donald Trump doesn't seem like that type of dude to me, because they've gone after him for so much stuff that it just doesn't stick. You know, they had to manipulate laws to go after him over some nonsensical story that just doesn't align with reality. The lady clearly lied to make him liable for assault or whatever, and that was clearly just a weaponized judicial system and legal structure that went after Donald Trump just to put that label on top of him, and it wasn't even criminal. So it's like, why was all this? But anyway, getting outside of that, they're going to make the case here, and once again, we're going to put the nail in the coffin of why these Epstein files have not been released yet. So you guys make sure and stay tuned for that. Smash that like button for me. Subscribe if you're new around here and you want to stay up to date with news and politics and how you're being manipulated by corporate press news articles and the mainstream news, by the way. And share this video anywhere and everywhere you can. And click that join button. Sign up and become a member. That's the best way to help this channel expand and grow. But without any further ado, folks, here we go.
I might know this. I guess that, when I heard that, what I felt was Trump was indisputably a good friend of Epstein for many years. He said he had no more contact with him after his conviction for pedophilia, which seems that's not been contradicted by any new evidence. But what you've got here clearly, just on the face of it, when I saw this drop, is you've got emails which are, at the very least, raising some eyebrows about this, albeit nothing points to any criminality by Donald Trump. What is your view of this?
Yeah, well, I think if Donald Trump were innocent, he would be falling over himself to release every file that he could that would show that he was innocent to the American people. And they're doing the exact opposite. To me, he's acting like he's guilty. What he's guilty of, I don't know. Did he know what Jeffrey Epstein was doing? Did he abuse women? Was he taking out loans from Jeffrey Epstein? I don't know what it is that he's covering up or who he's covering up for. But at every stage of this, they have promised transparency and then they have refused to release this. Pam Bondi says the files are on my desk. We're going to get them out any day now. They trot out MAGA influencers to the White House. They have them waving binders like idiots on the internet. Whole thing's ridiculous. And they refuse to just be transparent and release the files. You said at the beginning of this that you have some sympathy for the White House because Democrats are maybe selectively leaking these things. But the White House can end this at any time by releasing all of the files unredacted outside of the victims' names. They could do that, right? They're not doing it. And so I think it's because
why not the victims' names? Why not the victims'
names
make sure as well? That gives a fuller picture.
I want to make sure
we don't know if they're victims. Some of them are victims, some of them are not victims, and we have to be able to judge their credibility. In my case, for example, Virginia Giuffre publicly admitted that she may have misidentified me for years and years and years. So I'm just making a point. Why not release everything? Everything.
Alan, one, I would ask that you don't interrupt me. I won't interrupt you if you do the same. But look, the bottom line here is that Donald Trump has the power to end this scandal right now by releasing the information. Then we can hold everybody accountable, Democrat, Republican, everybody in between. But right now, this White House exists to protect the rich and the powerful, and they are protecting people whose names are in there. Maybe Donald Trump is guilty, maybe he's not. I don't know. These emails today sure make him look guilty as hell, but they refuse to do the right thing and just release these files. They could end this at any time.
Okay, Mark Lamont Hill, the question I have, hang on a second. The question I have, Mark Lamont Hill, is if there was a smoking gun about Donald Trump, which actually pointed to criminal actions by him, then surely the Democrats who had these files and had all the access, they would have released this before to stop Donald Trump getting re-elected. That's always been my presumption. It's like there couldn't have been a more incendiary political weapon if they'd wanted to use it, but they didn't, which suggests to me there isn't a smoking gun in there. And this drip, drip, drip stuff is very, entertaining for the media, gets this all going. It all looks a little bit, what's all this? But it doesn't really change the bigger picture of, is there any evidence of any criminality?
I don't necessarily see it that way. First, don't underestimate Democrats' ability to lose elections and to have bad strategy. That's the first thing. Second thing is, it is entirely possible that there is a smoking gun buried in there. And my fear is not that there isn't a smoking gun, but that there's also a smoking gun that implicates a bunch of Democrats. The issue here that you have to think about, potentially, is that Donald Trump is guilty of something, but so is, I'm just going to throw a name out there, Bill Clinton, because his name has been bandied about a bunch, and a whole bunch of other folk. And sometimes the powerful protect the powerful, not because they like each other or because they care about each other, but because it's a mutual assured destruction. I think that's why, and it's a rare day, but I agree with Alan Dershowitz that we need full transparency. We need all the documents released. We need all the information released, and let the American people make determinations about what's true and what's not true so that we don't have to do this drip, drip, drip stuff. And then finally, the one place where I would disagree with Alan is when he says that there's no even implication here that the president did something wrong. I mean, when he says, and I'm going to redact the name because he redacted the name, victims spent hours at my house with Trump, he has never once been mentioned and referred to him as the dog that hasn't barked. And then said, Trump said he asked me, of course he knew about the girls, as he asked Maxwell to stop, or asked Ghislaine to stop. These are things that do imply that something bad happened. These are words that imply that he was somehow complicit. But it doesn't mean he did something sexual. It doesn't mean that he did something illegal necessarily. I don't want to overstate anything here. We have to be careful when we start accusing people of things. But there absolutely is something that needs to be explained, and the best way to explain it is full transparency.
Okay, so I just love how Democrats just get around these logical hurdles by, hang on, maybe the ref won't see if we just go around this thing. Yeah, maybe they just won't see that. Like, okay, no, I'm sorry, Mark Lamont Hill. Okay, his supposition basically here is that either Democrats are incompetent or they're looking at this whole situation like, hang on just a second. Well, Donald Trump is guilty. There's a clear smoking gun, but yeah, it implicates other Democrats too, as if they've never implicated their own. Right? Once again, that's just nonsensical, but hang on just a second. We just got through the Oversight Committee selectively releasing emails that point to or mention Donald Trump. I'm not even going to say they point to anything because they're so cryptic. We have no idea exactly what they mean. There's no context. So they selectively put these things out into the ether to point a finger at Donald Trump. Right? Then you have the corporate press. Of course, they're biting on this by saying, oh, there's a smoking gun. Of course, Trump is the dog that won't bark. Whatever that's supposed to mean. Oh, he spent hours with victim, which is Virginia Giuffre. Like, for once again, why would they redact that name when we clearly know who we're talking about here? Like, there's something fishy about that. But yeah, as if Democrats wouldn't just selectively go through all the Epstein files because they really, truly did not want Donald Trump to win the next election, right, in 2024. So you mean to tell me they just forgot to selectively edit everything out of the Epstein files and pin that on Donald Trump? That would have guaranteed Donald Trump would not have won that election. I can guarantee that. I would have never voted for him if there was a smoking gun pointing to Donald Trump being involved with that island and doing some untoward pedo nonsense with underage girls. I'm sorry. You're not going to get most Christians. I said most, and it's probably 100% of Christians to vote for Donald Trump. Looking at whether we want to put a pedo in the White House or Kamala Harris, they would have voted for RFK Jr. I'm sorry. They would have definitely voted for him over Kamala Harris. There was other options out there to vote for instead of Kamala Harris. So I don't want to hear none of that nonsense. That is just garbage. There is no smoking gun. There is no evidence that clearly shows Donald Trump was caught up in this, right? This is also forgetting about the fact that, hang on just a second, like this is another logical hurdle that they just decide, oh, hang on, the ref ain't looking, we're just going to go around this thing. We're just not going to go over it. Okay, so they openly admit that Donald Trump was talking about releasing the Epstein files, him and his cabinet members, right? But then when they get into office, all of a sudden, now that, he's in the White House, Donald Trump, all of a sudden, it's a hoax, he doesn't want to release it, they're covering something up. Why would Donald Trump, knowing that he's in the Epstein files, have even mentioned anything about the Epstein files on the campaign trail? If he would know that once he gets in there, he's not going to be able to release the files because he's in them. That makes absolutely no sense. Like, there's way too many logical inconsistencies with any of the Democrats' arguments at all to make any sort of sense or to make any of it align with reality. None of it makes any sense to me, but I love, I'll give them a D- for effort there. They're at least trying a little bit. They're just not thinking about their own positions before supposing anything that actually happened. It's so fascinating, but let's keep going.
You put all that together and you got to think, well, why did they redact that name? Have they done that deliberately to stir up a political point scoring thing against Trump? Because once you know it's Virginia Giuffre and once you know what she has said about Trump, it's nowhere near as damning.
Mm-hmm.
No, of course I agree with that.
No,
and the fact that Virginia Giuffre is mentioned is very significant because she's written the bestseller. She falsely accused me and then admitted that she may have misidentified me and, destroyed my life for years and years and years based on a possible misidentification. So putting her name out there is very, very important. But I want to correct the record on the White House. It's not the White House that's keeping a lot of the most important material out. It's judges. 3 federal judges in New York have sealed depositions. I want those depositions out there. The depositions include depositions of Virginia Giuffre. They include depositions of other alleged accusers. And these judges, not the White House. The White House has no control. When judges seal materials, there's Judge Preska, there's Judge, I can name 2 or 3 other judges. And the New York Times and Piers Morgan ought to be making an application to these judges and demanding that these transcripts be revealed. Because if there are any smoking guns, if there are any serious accusations, they're in deposition transcripts, in my case, in the case of Ghislaine Maxwell, and in other civil cases that have been sealed. I have been trying to get all these depositions unsealed, and these judges won't do it. So let's put the blame where the blame belongs, on federal judges who are protecting some people. And that shouldn't be happening.
Alan,
so let's get everything out there,
I think
including
we're mixing
the
apples and oranges here.
Yeah, no,
Go ahead.
sorry. I want to make sure that people understand the depositions that Alan is talking about represent about 3% of what would be considered the Epstein files. That's the estimate on that. So 97%
I don't
of the
agree.
documents.
I don't agree with that.
That's the estimates that are out there.
I bet that's.
The 90, Alan,
that's more than 10%.
of the documents that haven't been released are in control of the White House and the DOJ. They could end this at any time. Yes, there are some things that are under seal, but the
no,
vast
they
majority
can't, because they can't get the judges. It'll never end as long as judges are sealing
documents.
depositions.
That's correct, Alan, but it is misleading.
But the other
well, let's get them out there.
Control their destiny.
I know what's in those documents. I know something you don't know. I know what's in those documents. That's why it's so important to get these judicial documents out there. I want them out there. If the judge will give me permission, I have them in my possession. My lawyers have them. Judge, let me give them to Piers Morgan. I want to give them to Piers Morgan. Why, Judge, are you preventing me from disclosing material that would be very, very important in putting a whole picture on this thing?
Well, I agree we should get those things out.
Okay, I want to bring it. Hang on.
Okay, folks, so that's exactly what I mean right there by smoking gun as to why they won't release the Epstein files. This has been stated several times by Kash Patel. This is the reason they were so gung-ho about releasing all the evidence, releasing the files, right? Because they didn't know about this until they got into office and realized, hang on just a second, all the incriminating evidence right here is under seal from the federal circuit itself. The federal circuit is protecting people. They are absolutely stopping any further prosecutions of anybody involved with any of this. That's what the documents say. And his excuse right there is, oh, well, the estimates are, it's 3%. Okay. Yeah, and the rest of it is nonsensical, irrelevant garbage and pedo material. That's the rest of it, right? What we want is who was involved. That's it. That's only a small percentage of everything that was investigated that has anything to do with Jeffrey Epstein and his untoward exploits on that island with underage girls. Like, these people just ignore that reality right there. This is why they can't release anything. This is why Pam Bondi got in and said, yes, I have the files on my desk, and then realized that, hang on just a second, I can't release any of this because it's under seal by the federal court, folks. I've been saying this for a while, but people seem to ignore that fact, and they're just like, well, they're covering something up clearly. Well, no, the federal circuit is for some reason, and we don't know why. And we'll never know why. We can speculate all day long. I'm sure it has a lot to do with protecting the victims. But, once again, the victims have said in the past, not that long ago, that they're going to come out with their own client list or whatever, which is going to be unverified. We'll never be able to verify any of that because the documents are sealed from the federal courthouse. Anybody that was involved other than Jeffrey Epstein, right? To try to make us believe that, Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell gathered up all these, I don't know, was it 2,000 women to traffic them to Jeffrey Epstein himself is nonsensical, right? Don't try to push that down our throat. We're not gonna respond to that, right? That's just garbage. That's nonsensical. Of course, other people were involved. We want to know who those people are. We can't figure out who those people are because for some reason the federal courts have decided we're going to seal all this information. We don't know why. We don't know for what reason, and we don't know to what extent. But it's sealed up. That's the reason they haven't released the files. There you go. Case closed. Until we get the federal courts to unseal the files, we're never going to know. The FBI could release all the information that it wants to. As a matter of fact, it has released everything that it's legally allowed to release. That's why they did release publicly known information already. It was like, oh, come on, this is like, nothing. It's a giant nothing burger because we already knew some of it. And as a matter of fact, in that release, they redacted information that was already in the public sphere, supposedly, or at least that's what I was told. But it's just all nonsensical. Once again, Democrats always ignore, and these people always ignore anything that would knock their arguments down. They just ignore it and move right past it and just say, screw it. We're just going to keep going with this nonsensical argument. Let's keep going.
I mean, if I were sitting in a prison and Donald Trump were the person who could get me out, I would say that I saw the JFK assassination. I mean, like, it doesn't matter what the thing is if I need someone to get out. Credibility is shot from Maxwell, but not just for her. And I think that's what makes this so messy. And to beat the dead horse, that's why we need all the information released. Donald Trump says that he and Epstein fell out over competing, interests in a property. Next thing you know, it's because he was poaching people from Mar-a-Lago. The stories change. An email says that she knew that she had no knowledge of Donald Trump's actions. Later on, it's like, oh, she definitely knew. I don't know who to believe. I don't know what to believe when it comes to these people involved in this scandal, because all of them seem to be saying contradictory things, and that's the danger. But I can guarantee you one thing: her tune will not change if she's up for a commutation, because that's just human nature. That's just common sense.
You know what's interesting, Eric? I'm just checking here some background information we had before we did this panel. In a 2016 deposition for a civil case, Virginia Giuffre was asked if she believed Donald Trump had witnessed the sexual abuse of minors in Epstein's home. She said, "I don't think Donald Trump participated in anything. I never saw or witnessed Donald Trump participate in those acts, but he was in the house of Jeffrey Epstein." Then she added, "I've heard he has been, but I haven't seen him myself, so I don't know." Now, again, the significance of that, which is 9 years ago, is that clearly from the Epstein leaked emails today, he's talking about seeing Virginia Giuffre in his house with Donald Trump for a number of hours, which would contradict her statement there, made 5 years after that email was sent, saying, "I haven't seen him myself, so I don't know." So again, what we're seeing is a kind of, through these leaks, because they're coming selectively, we're just seeing a lot of stuff that's been said publicly by everybody involved, seemingly, getting contradicted by the leaks. But we don't have all the leaks, we don't have all the information, and it's quite hard to work out proper context for this stuff.
Piers, in the sad part is being this far removed from when the actual nefarious operations, things were going on in the island and also in Manhattan, et cetera, around the world. We're looking back, and now all of a sudden, any sort of crossing paths with Jeffrey Epstein is some sort of guilt or an indictment of Trump or anyone else. Let's not forget, Bill Gates was at many high-level celebrities were at this island. Did they participate in the sexual rape, the pedophilia going on? No one knows. But certainly because they've crossed paths, or Epstein casually mentioned someone's name in an email that, yeah, that guy knew what was, doesn't indict them, doesn't make them guilty of it. And what's happening is now the Democrats are releasing this the way they are. And frankly, the way the Trump administration handled the original, we're going to release and then pulled back, is creating this media circus around it. Clearly, it's a media. Epstein has massive appeal to the consumer, to the news consumer and the political consumer. I just don't think it's going to have a political influence the way the way I believe the Democrats think it will. My guess is there may be some sort of smoking gun with Trump, but it also will incorporate some high-level donors on both sides, maybe some friends of Trump, certainly some friends of Biden, or it would have come out during the Biden administration, and everyone's staying quiet. And once again, the American people get screwed. We get completely blindsided by the swamp and the disgusting shit that goes on. You know what's even bigger than this that no one's talking about? The $100 or $200 million that congressional members and senators have paid victims of their own sexual abuse. Yet we're worried about whether Donald Trump knew or didn't know what was going on at the Epstein mansion when it was going on. At this point, who the hell really cares?
Well, I got to say, I care, actually, and I've known Donald Trump a long time. I like him personally. He's been a friend of mine, but I care. I care because 2,000 young women and many underage girls were abused by a lot of rich, powerful people. And we still have only had one person held accountable for that, and it was Ghislaine Maxwell, a woman. Right, so no man has ever been held properly accountable. Epstein cheated accountability by, I believe, taking his life. Others think otherwise, but I think he probably did.
I don't mean,
Alan,
Pierce,
what I want to
don't
bring to
mean
you
to belittle the victims. So I'm not belittling the victims. I agree that anyone who's known to have participated in this as a man, or anyone who facilitated the abuse, the pedophilia, Ghislaine Maxwell and others, should be held accountable, should be in jail. I absolutely agree. I meant for Trump politically, release the stuff.
Alan, I want to bring in another sort of twist to this, which is the involvement of Michael Wolff, the author, who's written, of course, a number of best-selling books about Donald Trump. He's in this new batch of leaked emails. It's kind of fascinating. I mean, it's no secret that he has, I think, over 100 hours of tape of interviews with Epstein. He's talked publicly about that. But in an email from January 2019, Epstein writes to Michael Wolff about Donald Trump. Of course, he knew about the girls, as he asked Ghislaine to stop. So we've had that. Now, that's during Trump's first term, 7 months before Epstein takes his life. Epstein wrote to Wolff, apparently, to address Trump's claim that he asked Epstein to resign his membership. He claims in these emails that he hadn't done. The White House says Trump barred him from Mar-a-Lago for being a creep and for stealing employees to go and work for him, and it turned out abuse some of them. But in a third email, Wolff wrote to Epstein with the subject line, "Heads up." This is December the 15th, 2015. That's the day of a CNN Republican primary debate. Wolff says, "I hear CNN planning to ask Trump tonight about his relationship with you, either on air or in the scrum afterwards." Epstein responds, "If we were able to craft an answer for him, what do you think it should be?" To which Wolff replies, "I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the House, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you, or if it really looks like he could win, you could save him generating a debt. Of course, it's possible that when asked, he'll say Jeffrey's a great guy and has gotten a raw deal as a victim of political correctness, which is to be outlawed in a Trump regime." Now, lots to unpack there, but my reading of this, why is Epstein saying if we're able to craft an answer for him, what do you think it should be? Should we read into that he's maintaining some contact with Trump, that he actually would want to send his thoughts to Trump? And then you've got a pretty sort of, Michael Wolff's role in this is obviously clearly very, some would argue he's just being a classic investigative journalist, but the sort of way he's plotting for Trump to hang himself, as he puts it, by answers that it looks like they may give him to say, it all looks a bit weird, doesn't it?
It does, and we have to understand, too, that, when Jeffrey Epstein talks to a journalist, he's talking in his own self-interest. So we have to ask questions about what is his motive? Is he telling the whole truth? Is he trying to curry favor? Is he trying to attack? We know that Jeffrey Epstein was an extraordinarily manipulative guy. And so you don't take at face value anything he necessarily says, especially when he says it to an interviewer who's going to be writing a book which he hopes will be favorable to him. So I think skeptical minds have to be kept open, which is why every piece of documentation has to be revealed. Nothing. By the end of this, there shouldn't be a single piece of paper, a single recording, a single videotape that has been suppressed. Until everything has been released, nobody can be satisfied that the whole truth has come out. Even if everything has been released, we have to look at the statements critically, because not necessarily are every statement being made absolutely credible and true.
Okay, so I agree with both of them on that. I agree with Mark Lamont Hill about Ghislaine Maxwell. I mean, she's going to say anything and everything she can to try to get her sentence commuted or get a cozy prison, whatever it may be. She's going to do and say whatever she can to get some kind of benefit to herself. That's what she's going to do, so we can't put any sort of credibility on anything she says. Now, Virginia Giuffre, that's where most of my, opinion on this kind of lies with, is Virginia Giuffre had no incentive whatsoever to go either way, to lie about any of this. She was coming out accusing Jeffrey Epstein of doing some really bad things. She could have thrown Donald Trump under the bus. She could have thrown Bill Clinton under the bus. She could have thrown Bill Gates under the bus. Any of these people, Prince Andrew, all of those people. She could have thrown anybody and everybody under the bus, and she would have been fully and totally protected from any sort of retribution whatsoever. And she said Donald Trump was the nicest person that she's ever met. He had no dealings that she knew of, at least, with Jeffrey Epstein and all this other nonsense, right? All this crap about Michael Wolff and all that garbage. These people are Trump deranged. Of course, they're going to say whatever they can to make Donald Trump look as bad as he possibly can in this whole situation. Like, once again, going back to those emails, look at what was going on at that time, right? Sure, there's a Republican primary, you know, the debate or whatever coming up. And, like, what are they doing? Fantasizing about giving Donald Trump an answer or something like that? Like, what are they even talking about here? That doesn't insinuate they had any sort of contact with Donald Trump. I'm sorry. It could insinuate that, but it doesn't, because we don't know. It's just a possible avenue. We have no freaking clue. All the other evidence would state that no, they don't have contact, so I don't know why that piece of information is even relevant. Once again, until we get further information that would show that Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein had some sort of a contact back and forth with each other, that's completely irrelevant. That's just these two people fantasizing about Donald Trump. That's how I see it, at least. Going back to Alan Dershowitz, he's right. He's totally right. All this information needs to be released. We need to get all those files unsealed from the federal circuit so we can get all that information. That's it. I don't think Donald Trump is opposed to any of this, simply because Donald Trump petitioned those same federal courts 3 times already since he's been put back into office, or at least the Department of Justice has. They've petitioned those courts 3 different times and were denied all 3 different times. I covered those stories right here on the channel. They've been denied. So we can't really go any further until we get some sort of movement, right? Those federal circuits, of course, they're going to seal the pertinent information, the information that we want to know, the damaging information. They're not going to seal any irrelevant information like the rest of the investigative documents. They're not going to seal any of that nonsense. They know that the Department of Justice isn't going to release any pedo material, any videos or anything like that. They know the Department of Justice is going to protect the names of all the victims, so there's no need to seal all of that nonsense. It's illegal for them to release any of that information in the first place. So they're going to seal the damaging information. Somebody is being protected here. There's a lot of powerful individuals that are being protected by this. I don't know who they are. We would love to know that. That's why this needs to get done. But until they can unseal those files, for crying out loud, these people need to shut up and just sit back. This is a non-issue, and Democrats are trying to force the issue and trying to make it an issue by taking all of this irrelevant ancillary nonsense and put it to the forefront and be like, look, this is a smoking gun. Believe us, please, please, please believe us, and don't think any further into this. Please, Donald Trump is guilty. Just take our word for it. Politicians telling you that, yeah, I'm sorry, when a politician tells you, please believe me, ignore everything else, ignore what your eyes have seen, ignore all the other exculpatory, exonerating information right here, ignore that, and believe us. We're telling you the truth, we swear. And we're not even giving you anything. I'm sorry. I can't buy that, especially when it's just so politically convenient and politically advantageous for Democrats to release this and say, oh, this is damaging. But when you think about it, it's really not. Once again, these cryptic, some of the crypticness of these emails just, they don't say anything at all. And Democrats are saying, no, it insinuates Donald Trump is guilty. I don't believe none of it. Sorry, let's keep going.
No, I mean, it seems to me like they were still in contact. We know that they were close. We know that they were friends. And I think the other thing I would add to this is the number of times that Donald Trump or someone in his orbit has lied about his relationship with Epstein is just unbelievable to me. It goes back to the goofy, weird, creepy birthday card that they sent. Even Donald Trump was like, I've never made a doodle in my life, when we know document wise he has made doodles like that in the past. It lines up with what he was doing at the time. So they just keep lying. And to me, it does seem like they were probably having contact, probably coordinating on some level. And Michael Wolff's email is also interesting to me, because he's talking about using it as leverage if Donald Trump becomes president of the United States. If Epstein is in hot water, he wants Trump to win. He wants to protect Trump, leverage that to get a pardon or a commutation. And I want to add something a little bit to what Eric said a few moments ago about why this is so important, because I really believe this Epstein scandal is super important, not just because of the politics of it. I think the politics on it are going to be a wash, because if we get everything out there, there's going to be lots of Democrats implicated, going to be lots of Republicans. But we're in this situation where a lot of people do not believe that the federal government is going to take care of people, and that this government right now under Trump is a protection racket for billionaires and incredibly wealthy and powerful people. So we need to make sure that all these documents get out there, that these people are exposed, that people are held accountable, and they get some justice for these victims. I think that's incredibly important, regardless of the partisan politics of it. You go back 20 years to the Wall Street financial crisis, nobody was held accountable for crushing the economy. Nobody was held accountable for all the folks who had their lives ruined and their homes taken away from them. I think this is the same thing. We've got to show that this is not a two-tier justice system where the rich and the powerful can get away with abusing people and destroying people's lives.
Can I just jump in there?
Look,
How unique and hypocritical that is for you to say, Mike. Thank you for jumping in on the political nature of whether the political needle moves or not, no matter what's in there. I agree. I think it's going to be a wash no matter what names are on there. I find it kind of funny now you're talking about equal justice applied under the law, when the guy Trump just went through 4 years of the most ridiculous, unequal, two-tiered level of justice that we've ever seen. Alan can weigh in on this if you think I'm wrong. I mean, they were making felonies out of misdemeanor charges just so they can see if they can get a felony attached to Trump. And now all of a sudden, I think the Democrats were wrong. The lawfare that went on for the 4 years is wrong. And I also think that Trump should release this no matter who was in it, even if his own name is smack dab in the middle. One final thought. Let's not forget, Donald Trump told his people to disenfranchise Jeffrey, give him back his membership, get him away from Mar-a-Lago. There's a reason for that. I mean, this finger pointing is nonsense until we have the names and context of what's going on. We can't indict and convict Trump until we know what happened, and then he goes through due process. That's my final thought on.
But let's understand
whether Trump's guilty.
Can I respond to that, Piers, real quick? Sorry, just because it was directed to me. Yeah. I mean, one, I disagree with the assertion that there was a two-tier justice system for Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump has committed many crimes and he should be held accountable for that. Fine, we're going to disagree. I look forward to you speaking out with just as much veracity as you just had when Donald Trump, indicts Adam Schiff this week, which is supposed to be rumored over some bullshit stuff that they've trumped up. I'm sure that there have been times in the past under Democratic and Republican administrations where the DOJ didn't do its job the way that it should have. But in this administration right now, Donald Trump is personally interceding, firing and removing people who aren't going after his political opponents. The stuff with Tish James, James Comey, it's all bullshit. And it shows you that everything that Donald Trump does is about his personal
he's going after these people for the same things that they went after him for, which were bullshit in the first place.
I don't agree with that.
Let's remember,
are you kidding me? Joe Biden.
Well, let's remember what Trish James.
Joe Biden's not the one who ordered that stuff.
Tish James went after Donald Trump for how his mortgage was prepared on a document when she was doing the same damn thing.
But hold on, there's a different thing here.
At least be fair. At least be fair about this.
Eric, let me add something though, because the difference is most of these charges that Donald Trump has had the DOJ bring against Comey and Tish James and others, they're likely going to be thrown out. The difference is that Donald Trump was found guilty by a jury of his peers of fraud. Now, it's in the past now. The American people decided they didn't care about that. But if you think it was wrong,
peers is very, very
let's set the record straight.
Creative on your part.
Let's set the record straight on Trish James. Trish James ran for office. The only time I've ever heard a prosecutor do this since Stalin's time, on the claim of, I'm going to get Trump, no matter what he did. I haven't done any research. I haven't looked at it. But my campaign is get Trump. And she tried to get him in every way. She tried to invent crimes she couldn't find. Finally, she went after him civilly. Then they went after him criminally. I have never seen a weaker criminal case in my 60 years of practicing law than this miraculous conversion of a misdemeanor, which was time barred, into a felony based on multiple choice. In 60 years, I have never seen a worse case, criminal case, than the one against Donald Trump. You may be right. You may be right about things that Donald Trump did, but these cases against him by Trish James and by the District Attorney of New York are two of the worst cases I have ever seen in my years of practicing criminal law. And what we're seeing is warfare and lawfare on both sides, and it has to stop on both sides, not just on one side. Now, you can't blame Biden for that, but you can blame two democratically elected New York officials, Trish James and Alvin Bragg. And Alvin Bragg was just reelected, and Trish James will probably be reelected. They have absolutely violated their norms of criminal justice and done terrible things in order to get Trump. I wrote a book called Get Trump. I didn't come up with that title. That was Trish James's campaign pledge to get Trump. It reminds me of what Lavrenti Beria, the head of the FBI, said to Stalin, "Show me the man and I'll find you the crime." And that's what these New York law enforcement officials did. They set out to get Trump. They looked for crimes. They couldn't find them, so they manufactured them, and I think they'll both be reversed on appeal.
To say that there's not and there never has been a two-tier justice system in this country is absolutely and completely ridiculously ludicrous. Yes, I had to throw two qualifiers onto there because it is so absurd to say that, and it's so insane. All we got to do is look at January 6th. The FBI was weaponized, a massive manhunt, the largest manhunt in American history to go after peaceful protesters. Now, I'm not saying all of the January 6th defendants were peaceful protesters. I'm not saying that at all. But the vast majority of the people, of the defendants, we'll put it that way, and non-defendants, some people had their cases just thrown out completely because of exculpatory evidence. Once they saw the evidence, they're like, this dude was completely innocent, blah, 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 blah. There was at least 1,000 peaceful protesters rounded up and thrown into prison because of January 6th. Now, to say that there hasn't been, this is completely absurd. They ran on going after Donald Trump. Alan Dershowitz is 100% correct. Alvin Bragg ran on it as well, and that's exactly what they did. So, to say that it's completely unfair that Donald Trump is going after Tish James, James Comey, John Brennan, all these other folks that, Adam Schiff, once again, I've talked about all of these cases. Tish James, and to say they're going to get thrown out is once again ridiculously, ludicrously absurd. It's just one of the most flippant statements I think I've ever heard in my entire life. It's a clear-cut case of mortgage fraud. All of these are clear-cut case. Well, James Comey, that's a clear-cut case of lying to Congress. And if he does not get at least 3 months in prison, that right there by itself is proof that we have a two-tier justice system in this country. Proof, because once again, Steve Bannon, Peter Navarro, somebody else, I forget their name, because they're kind of irrelevant or whatever it may be. But anyway, they went to prison for lying to Congress, essentially. And James Comey has lied multiple times to Congress. I think just about every FBI director has lied to Congress. Everyone, including Kash Patel. I'm sure he's probably lied to Congress as well. Tried to skirt the truth or whatever, not told the complete truth, which lying through omission is lying to Congress. But anyway, Letitia James, that's a clear-cut case of mortgage fraud. Clear-cut case. Adam Schiff is a clear-cut case of mortgage fraud. Once again, I do give that one a caveat, though. Now, you guys know, I'm sure anybody that follows this channel knows, I am like the opposite of a fan of Adam Schiff, right? Don't like Adam Schiff, not in the least. But if anybody deserves an out on this, it would be senators and representatives. Because, to say that the residence in Maryland that he purchased is not his primary residence would be kind of semantic, if you will, because he spends most of his time in Washington, D.C. Now, to hold that seat, you have to have a primary residence in the district that you represent or state that you represent. So, there's the clear-cut case. He can't have a primary residence in Maryland and represent California. Clear-cut case. Once again, Letitia James. That's another clear-cut case. You cannot be the Attorney General for New York and have a primary residence in Virginia. It's impossible. Clear-cut case. James Comey, same thing. Look at those. He clearly lied to Congress. He said to Congress blatantly he did not know of any spying on Donald Trump's campaign. That is a blatant lie. There's other statements as well. I'm not going to go over all of them, but there's 4. 2 of them are for sure. The other 2 are questionable, kind of semantic or whatever. So, once again, clear-cut cases here. Now, you look in Donald Trump's case. I don't know, let's go with Alvin Bragg right quick. That whole situation, the falsifying business records. Clear-cut case. If they would have brought the misdemeanor charge, falsifying business records, there you go. You got an easy conviction. And you will even get somebody, an ardent Trump supporter like me, to say guilty in a court of law. Boom. Elevating it to a felony? Absolute trash. That is just trash of an indictment. Because the underlying crime is a freaking multiple choice. That he was exonerated on all 3. He was investigated for all 3 of those and exonerated for all 3 of those. Clearly did not commit these. So you cannot have a crime, an underlying crime, to elevate a misdemeanor to a felony that you were exonerated for. I'm sorry. And they're trying to use the excuse, oh, well, maybe he intended to commit these crimes. No, I'm sorry. That's just trash. Absolute and utter trash. That's what those are. Now let's go with Letitia James. That whole scheme or whatever. Okay, when the victim comes out and says, we absolutely weren't defrauded, he got some numbers wrong, we double-checked those numbers, informed him that his numbers were wrong, and gave him a loan based upon the adjusted numbers. And they're trying to say that that's fraud? I'm sorry. That would be the same thing as you going to purchase a car and the guy saying, I want $6,000 for this thing. And you looking at the Kelley Blue Book and saying that it's only worth $4,000, and you telling the guy, well, the Kelley Blue Book says it's $4,000, and then the guy saying, okay, I'll sell it for $4,000, and you buying the car for $4,000, and then later the Attorney General comes in and says, you were defrauded because you haggled the price down. You were defrauded. You're a victim in this thing. And you're like, no. He was trying to get $6,000. I told him it wasn't worth $6,000. I gave him $4,000. That's the level of nonsense, the level of trash that we're dealing with here. That's, once again, like so absurd. The English language does not have a word for the level of absurdity that case in particular is. The other one's just trash. This is just an obscene level of absurdity to call that fraud. And they got him anyway. Just completely insane. So don't come at me talking about, the criminal justice system. Well, the government wasn't weaponized against Donald Trump. Like, are you kidding me with this? They had to drudge up old charges. They ran on getting Trump. Nonsense. All of it nonsense completely. And if you have anything to say about that in the comments section, you are retarded. Absolutely and utterly retarded. Seriously. So I would not comment on that if you oppose my view on this. Seriously, because you're an absolute retard. I have no problem saying that whatsoever. But anyway, I think that's all I got on this one. We know that we're never going to get any answers, so I don't know why they keep trying to drum all this nonsense up on this whole Jeffrey Epstein scandal, right? We would love some justice for the victims, right? Anybody and everybody involved need to be locked up. Absolutely locked up, y'all. But like I said, that's all I got. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Don't forget to smash that like button for me. Subscribe if you're new around here. Share this video anywhere and everywhere and all over the place with anybody and everybody that you know. That would be the best, as a matter of fact, if you could do that for me. And, click that join button. I almost forgot what I was going to say right there. Click the join button, y'all. Sign up and become a member. That's the best way to ensure that you get more content like this. The best way to help this channel expand and grow. And definitely, I need y'all's help, y'all. Straight up. I do. Because if you look at this situation we have going on right here, this situation, okay? We've got little old me. I have a full-time freaking job. I go to work 8 hours Monday through Friday. And then I come home and I make 3 videos a day, y'all. 3 videos a day. 2 news topical videos, and then I go over Congress, like committee hearings, and I just kind of react to those things, right? And kind of discuss issues or whatever it is. But I spend all of my free time editing and uploading videos. Of course, that's by choice. I'm not trying to victimize myself or anything like that. But I'm having to fight against the corporate press who operates on multi-million-dollar budgets, y'all. And I could use y'all's help. That's all I'm saying. And I'm here to fight the good fight. And I can be a weapon for you guys to expose the truth to the rest of the people out there that may not be getting the truth as it is in reality. But you guys, y'all remember something for me. You guys remember that. Look, Jesus died on the cross to save us. We must be grateful of that and praise God in everything that we do. Look, I'm not some preacher. I'm not some man, I'm Bible-thumping Christian or anything like that. But I do have a strong faith in God. And I do believe that we must spread the word, y'all. We must spread the word because Christians are under attack in this day and age. We're getting called everything in the freaking book. They're trying to expose us as evil for believing in morality, folks, for believing that God is trying to save us. Or Jesus died on the cross for our sins to save us so we could have eternal life. Humanity is eternal, y'all. Abso-freaking-lutely, I believe that. But you guys, y'all remember all that. Y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.